Hi, and welcome everybody, and thank you all for your patience this evening, but we've had a great chat, and I am going to introduce John Soppet from the Genealogical Computing Group. So if you are interested in genealogical software, he and his team at the Genealogical Computing Group are a great source of information, and I am now going to hand it over to you, John, to talk about finding your genealogical software, and I'm going to turn myself off. So all yours.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Well, I must say one thing first, and that is that I have suffered from cancer of my larynx, and occasionally I go croaky if I talk too much. So if you can't understand me, please put your hand up and tell me. Right, okay, on to the first slide. Let you read that. Right. Now, I have created a handout and it's been uploaded and it's in the GCG page. You don't need to rush to write down this link. I will leave it on the screen when I finish. All right. Now, first, a bit of history. In the past, before computers, family history research involved hours of manual research in libraries and similar places. Much of the family tree came from relatives who knew about their ancestors. This knowledge was usually kept in family trees drawn out on pieces of paper. And you see there a rough example of a simple tree. Now, the results of the research were kept in folders. Some people were very efficient in their record keeping, and others just filed their findings willy-nilly and had great difficulty retrieving the data. It took a lot of discipline to organise it correctly. To aid in research, a range of pre-printed forms were available, such as family group sheets, pedigree charts, and descendancy charts, which I'm sure you're all well familiar with. From this research, some people drew family trees and created individual narratives of their people or family, and others actually wrote a complete book. Then came computers. During the 1980s, decade, personal computers became available, and with them, genealogical software. Typically, compared to today, the software was rudimentary and only a repository for the family tree and supporting events, dates, places. And I started using a computer in about 1987. Then the internet came. In the early 90s, we were able to access the internet, and research expanded to finding family history online. Today, there are millions of pieces of family history accessible on the internet using computers and now tablets and smartphones. It is not the purpose of this presentation to cover tablets and smartphones. In 2023, there are a great many genealogical or family history applications. Far too many to be covered here. In this presentation, we will look at some of the main ones. Now then, what does genealogical software do? In technical terms, genealogical software is a database. This is software that holds and collates a table of individual pieces of data, like a name and an event on a date at a place. In most genealogical software, the table is not visible. For example, imagine a page with lines to form a grid giving rows and columns. Columns can be labelled name, event, date, and place. The rows begin with the person's name and continues with, say, a birth event, date of birth, and place of birth. The database knows how to connect all the pieces together and the person's relationship to other family members. The simplest genealogical software only holds the pieces of data described above. The most powerful software holds much, much more than that. So choosing the software. First, there are some questions to be answered. 1. How computer aware are you? This gives an indication of how you will use your software. Some software can be quite daunting to use. 2. How big is your family? Or how broadly do you want to cover your extended family? And how many generations are you interested in? 3. How much detail do you want to store? Simple software just stores the basics. The most powerful software can store an enormous amount of data on each person. 4. What kind of output do you want? The kind of reports or family tree printouts you may want may be governed or be the governing factor in your choice. So, answering those questions. Computer awareness. If you're not very computer aware, you will be best to have software with simple screen layouts. You do not want a screen that is too busy, i.e., too much detail. All genealogical software uses multiple screens to display and allow entry of data about a person and their family. Transition from one screen to another should be either guided or intuitive. For an experienced computer user, a busy screen containing a lot of data will not faze them. Most transitions from one screen to another should be intuitive or learned. Size of family. How broadly do you want to cover your extended family, and how many generations are you interested in? If you're only interested in just your immediate family and first or second cousins, going back, say, 5 generations, simple software is for you. If you want to capture thousands of people in many families, going back as many generations as you can find, then the most powerful software is for you. How much detail? If you want to stick to the basic details about a person, simple software is for you. Most software will allow you to store a photo. The most powerful software will store a great number of additional details for a person, including sources and citations, media, and audio clips. Cost. Hang on a bit, jumped one. Output. Simple software will allow you to print family trees in at least a couple of formats, along with family group sheets and lists of people. All genealogical software will allow you to create a GEDCOM file. GEDCOM is a file format that allows transfer of genealogical data from one application to another. Powerful software does all of the above and much more. Cost. Up till now, I haven't mentioned cost. Something everyone wants to know. Most genealogical software is moderately priced and is usually available direct from the manufacturer's website for less than $100. One or two do actually sneak a bit over it. For most manufacturers, buying the software is a one-off charge for the current major version. Minor version upgrades are free and some are automatic. You will have to pay a nominal charge to upgrade to a new major version. Most software has a free evaluation version that works just like the paid version and allows a limited size database. From these evaluation versions, you can give them a try. If you try one and don't like it, create a GEDCOM of your file and import it into the next one you try. A number of software manufacturers provide good examples of what their screens look like, and these images may prompt you to try them. And here's a typical one showing a pardon me. Wow. Yeah. Showing a pedigree chart.
You there? Yeah. You hear me?
Right. Very few software applications can be bought over the counter in a shop, and I'm not aware of any that have demonstrations in the shop. So essentially, you're stuck with finding your software online. Your try before you buy is by installing the free or demo version. The source format of the software being, how does it come when you buy it? Almost all genealogical software applications now do not come on a CD as they did in the past, unless you choose to buy it that way. Some are available on a memory stick. The usual process is to download the software from the manufacturer's website as the free version, install it, and then pay online for the full version. You then receive a key which you enter into the software to unlock the full version. Online databases. I'm just going to touch on these simply because they do have a place in our research activity. Strictly speaking, an online database or family tree is not software. However, an increasing number of people are choosing to use this format instead of software installed on their computers. Online family trees are accessed using a web browser. For the less computer-aware person, online family trees satisfy the simple category, which most of today's software does not. Online family trees can be found or created on, for example, Family Search, Ancestry, MyHeritage, Genie, and many more. The software applications themselves, I've got a mix up. It's all right. Availability of genealogical soft applications is to some degree governed by which operating system your computer uses. Essentially, these are Windows, Apple or Macintosh, or Linux. And I have to assume that most people are aware of what it is that their computer runs. And I've got about 7 or so of the most familiar applications, and you don't need to worry about these web links to the manufacturer's websites because it's all in the handout. Note that on Family Tree Maker 2019, that's important because earlier versions were by a different manufacturer who is no longer in business. And Roots Magic 8. And only on the Windows platform is Genbox and Legacy Family Tree version 9, and that's the one whose price tends to sneak over the $100. Now, if you're operating a Macintosh, you have these 4. I think everybody's seen them. And here's another one that a lot of people haven't heard of. And in fact, it's not a bad program, actually. And it's available primarily, it originated as an application for Linux and then was developed for Windows and Macintosh. More software. The above listing has given you the most popular applications. There are significantly more. A good listing of those available is shown on Wikipedia, and there's the link. There are 4 comparison charts on that page which show the features, the differences between applications, and if you look at the general features and genealogical feature tables, the more green squares there are, the more powerful software is. Now, I beg your pardon, I've jumped ahead. Many of the applications can synchronize with online family trees. The software's manufacturer's website will tell you more about this. Also, many can connect to Ancestry, MyHeritage, and Family Search to provide useful data about a person. The result of finding that data is called a hint. When there is a hint, an icon will appear alongside the person's name. Usually, to use these hints, you will need a login to the website. Right, getting started with your software. Don't rush in and start entering your granddad or some other person. Always start with yourself. You are number 1 in the database. Next, your parents with your father first, then your mother. For a start, just put in the essentials like birth date and place, marriage date and place, death date and place. You can put in more events later. With just 3 people, the software will have become functional, and now's the time to explore and get familiar with its features. You'll find that without at least 3 people in it, some of the screens won't open, and you'll find that there are a variety of different ways of viewing the data about any given person or family. When you have entered another generation and you discover a mistake, it's not too hard to fix. With more data entered, errors become harder to fix, especially relationship errors. And that's probably where most people end up needing some help. Help. All right. All of the manufacturers' websites have quite extensive help. Mainly, this is because they do not produce a user manual as a rule. Some provide a manual to be downloaded and others rely on their online help. All have a means to submit suggestions, feature change requests, and report bugs. Many of the genealogical software applications also have supporting Facebook pages where you can find additional user advice. From my own experience, my software manufacturer provides a knowledge base, technical support, frequently asked questions, user forums, and how-to videos on YouTube and 2 Facebook pages. Also, there is a user group in which I am the Auckland representative. What next? To help with your genealogical software, contact us at the GCG. You'll find someone with experience in the most common software. We may not know the finer details of the less common software, but we have sufficient experience to find our way around yours. You're most welcome to come to our meetings, held every third Saturday of the month, February to November at the FRC, starting at 1:30 p.m. We have a $5 door charge to cover afternoon tea, and we charge $15 giving you a subscription to our magazine. Oh, that's an annual. And we have members spread throughout New Zealand. Now, this presentation has been captured in a handout, which you can download from the NZSG website at the link showing, and the handout has all of the web links that I have covered. And that brings me to the end. So back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, John. And I'd like to point out that if you're not able to write down that link to, find the links, it will be, if you go look under branches in the on our website, it'll be under the genealogical computing branches page, and we will also stick a link to it up when we put the video of this presentation up there, so you can find it then. So that has been very interesting, John. So I did have one question already in the chat about where is the FRC. It's in Panmure in Auckland.
Sarah.
Yep.
I must mention it, since I created the presentation, our committee has agreed that we are going to either go live for our meetings, so we will be accessible on Zoom, or through a recording.
Excellent. That will be great. And thanks, Peter, for putting the link up in the chat for people. Yep, Queens Road, Panmure is the answer to the address. Oh, you're in Queensland. Well, this is where you reach out and find local groups in your area. I do know that I don't think they're particularly active. We do have an Australian group, but if you're having any trouble, as John has said, do get in touch with their group. Technology these days means that we can talk to people wherever they are in the world, like we're talking to you tonight. So, yeah, well, I'm sure they'll be glad to see you.
I'll be over there next week.
You might be making a visit while you're there.
Yeah.
So we've had a question, what are the common mistakes people make when getting software? John, do you want to hazard an opinion on that?
Probably the most common mistake is having too high an expectation and not doing what I suggested, which was to download the free version of it and have a play around with it, because let's face it, you can't break it, and if you mess up, the easiest thing to do is just uninstall it and try again, and that's why I suggest that you hold it to just about three people or so until you get familiar with how it works. And then when you try to explore the software and you find it difficult, then maybe that one's not for you. So uninstall it and go find another one.
Yeah, I have to agree. I did like your hint on the 3 people. I think that's actually a really good idea, is to start off with 3 people and then input the data relating to them. And, you know, by the time you've done those 3, you should have a fairly good feel for whether or not the way you run the input is annoying you or you're not getting it. You know, there are some things that you try and you just don't get. So, and then it's on to finding one that you do get. Now, John, do you just want to unshare your screen?
Okay. Now then,
we can
we've got to find a place to do that.
And just click on the share button again. It should allow you to unshare.
Yep.
And people can turn their cameras on if they've got questions.
Now then, where are we? There it is. Right, there we go.
Okay, it's taking a minute on my one. Yep, there we go. I have to say, I'm sure there's a few people here tonight who were pleased you mentioned Gramps, because in our conversations earlier, there were lots of people saying that they enjoyed using Gramps. But, you know, as you've also pointed out, there are a gazillion other ones out there for, you know, that you can try if, you know, you don't get on with Gramps or anything else that you've tried. Now, do we have any other questions for John? Peter?
Yeah, we're just talking before about mistakes people made when they start off, and one I might suggest is that sometimes people start multiple databases for the different branches of their ancestors, and I would strongly recommend you have one database for everyone, because it just becomes so much easier later on, and inevitably you'll find links between the different branches.
That's right. I'll endorse that.
Yes, and I often see discussions online about whether you have, you know, 4 trees, one for each grandparent, or whether just one tree. And people do argue pros and cons, but I'm firmly in the one tree, because like you say, at some point you're going to discover that they're related to each other, and near family you're going to end up duplicating, so you don't want that either.
Well, one thing that I should say is that if you want to play around with a particular branch of the family, then create a GEDCOM and put it into a new database, delete the people or the branches that you don't want, and then mess about with it. But remember that if you start putting valuable data into it, you're going to have a performance getting it back into the main database.
Yeah. As someone who's played around with mergers and legacy, yeah. It's, you know, it's fun, and you just make sure you've backed up everything 5 times, because you're bound to muck something up along the way.
Yes. Now, does anybody want to revisit any of the slides?
Or any of the points made on the slides?
Nope.
No. Are there any other questions? No. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap things up this evening. So on our website are the contact details for the Genealogical Computing Group. So do feel free to get in touch with them. If you belong to a local branch, get in touch with them too if you need somebody in person to help you. You know, there's lots of people everywhere. I know that Kapiti branch also have a lot of user groups that meet periodically in person. So I'm not quite sure about ones down further south of here, but I'm sure there are people out there that are always willing to help. That's what genealogy is all about. We like helping people. So
yeah, can I add to that? Somebody that you know, Sarah, Ron Doggett in Wellington, is also a member of the Genealogical Computing Group.
Cool.
And a good friend of mine, in fact. Now, I'm also quite happy to do a Zoom session with someone if they get stuck, and we can just simply share screens so that I can see their screen and maybe help them.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you for that offer, John. I'm sure people will be taking you up on it. So thank you once again for putting together this presentation this evening, and thank you everybody for coming along. The next one will be at the end of March. I have no idea what it's going to be on at the moment because I haven't decided. If you've got any suggestions or ideas, email me or chuck them in the chat now before you go. We're looking for ideas. Megan, my cohort in crime, is off travelling at the moment, so I don't have anybody to think of ideas for me. So, but we will put it out in eKit in advance for you to come along. So I have a few ideas. It's just finding people to help me out with it all. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you all along next time. Cheers.